Welcome to Short Scale Modelling. This is part 2 of Trumpeter's DKM U-boat. Type is the V11C U552. Scale is 148. So in this part 2, I'm going to be starting the build. So the build starts off with working on the interior part of the boat. So let's jump into this and see how well I get on. The first thing to do is to build up the torpedoes. Now there's 12 in total to build up, so quite a lot. So I'm just taking off the screws or the props, and a little bit of cleaning up is needed in here. Initially when I looked at the screws, everything looked nice and clean, but as soon as I took the parts off and examined them more closely, they are going to need a bit of clean up. Now the screws come in 2 halves, and I'm building these on the sprue. This is just for ease of handling and for painting as well. And each one just gets placed on top of the other one. So I've got the main bodies off of the torpedoes off the sprue, and like the screw, I'm just doing a little bit of clean up. There's not that much to do, it's just the little bars from the sprue tree joints and taking off here. It is a long process though, because there's so many of them, but the actual assembly itself is very simple. If you do have a long length like this to cement, I would suggest taking one half and cementing it halfway, and then the opposite half, do the same again but coming from the other direction. That way it's easier to handle. You can pick it up and sandwich the 2 halves together without getting any cement on your fingers. The thing to point out here is a couple of mines were slightly warped, just ever so slightly out of positioning, so I had to use a couple of clamps just to hold them down. As a rule though, you won't need any clamps, just clicking it together should be enough. To paint the screws, I'm using Revell Aquacolor 93 copper. Now the instructions actually call for a gold colour. I prefer the copper colour when I'm doing these. I like the darker colour, but a gold or a brass colour would work equally as well. For the torpedo shaft, I'm using Revell Aquacolor 371 light grey. Now, I'll leave plenty of time to do this. This will take several coats for this colour to take. What I should have done was primed these in white primer, and it would have taken less coats. Next is to build the stabilizers onto the screws. Now, the stabilizers, they come in a cross section. It's easy enough to do. Pop in the screw first before you put in the cross piece. It just makes life a lot easier than trying to get everything in one go. Hence why I pre-painted these as well. The fin is also the same colour as the main body of the torpedo, but as you can see there, I've put in the little screw first. You don't really need to cement these either. The fit's quite tight. Cement the cross part, but you don't really have to cement the screw if you don't want to. When you push these in though, be careful, because it is a very weak joint and these parts can snap. Also, don't worry if you can't get it 100% lined up, because when you push them onto the main shaft of the torpedo, it will line itself up as well. So as you can see there, I'm just putting on a little bit of cement into the recess, and then I'm just going to be pushing these on into this protective slats for them to sit into. It takes a little bit of jiggling just because the nature of the cross piece. It's nothing to do with fit issues. It's just the nature and the shape of the part, but they do go on very easily. I will say though, you won't be able to build all these at one go. There is a lot of drying time in between each process here. And once they're dry, I'm just going to be touching up any of the paintwork that's got slightly scuffed in the assemble process. Now, of course, you can assemble these without painting and paint it all afterwards, but that actually makes it really difficult to paint. Then I'm moving on to Umbral 32 dark grey for the tip of the torpedo. There's a natural line on the torpedo as a paint guide for you to follow. I didn't bother masking it off, but of course you can if you want. As I zoomed in there, you can see the perforation marks. That's the mark that you want to paint down to. Your paintbrush naturally glides to that mark as well. But if you just gradually cut into that mark, you won't need any masking tape, unless you're airbrushing, of course. Next, I'm going on to the interior wall. Well, what the first interior wall, and what I'm doing here, I'm just tracing out with my pencil certain areas on the wall that's going to be painted. I sometimes do this instead of masking, so I know what line I'm painting up to, and plus the fact the graphite acts as a nice border as well. All depends on what colour you're going to be using to paint though. Some areas that I do mask off, like the end part here, I need a straight line all the way down, so hence why I'm placing a piece of masking tape. I'm using Humbrol's 110 natural wood as the background colour. Now the trick to painting these wood colours is don't be determined to get them all nice even colour. You do actually want different variations in the tone and the depth of the paint to give that better wood effect. I should mention I use Revit Aquacolor 76 light grey for the side part of the panel. So while that's drying, I'm going into the bench part of the build, and here I'm using Humbrol's 186 brown, and this is just the framework around the bench. I keep on saying bench, I mean bunk. Next I'm using Humbrol's 118 US tan, and this is for the top part of the framework that I've just been painting. So first of all, I'm just painting around the edges before I place on the main colour. And it's the same colour for the panelling along the back wall, and these are the areas that I traced up with my pencil. So as you can see, the pencil, the graphite blends in with the paint, and it doesn't leave any obvious marks, just a hint of a border, which actually improves the look of it in my opinion. I can then apply my final coat of the grey to the side parts of the back wall. And if you have a flat brush, you really don't have to worry about masking tape at this point either. The edges on the bunker now dry, so I can assemble these. I'm leaving the paint to these slats until everything is assembled. It just makes it easier, but it's important to paint in the framework and as well the side parts of the bunk as well, of course. I'm using Humbrol 156 Dark Camouflage Grey for this part. This is a little control box thing that needs to be painted, so that's the background colour. And then I'm also using the same colour here to paint in all the other little bits of raised detail, so the doors, recessed panels and so on. And then it's back to Humbrol 118 US tan to finish off the bunks. I'm also using the pencil method to highlight the pipework that runs throughout the ship. This just makes it easier than trying to paint it in, or even placing on a pigment using a brush sharpener. Sometimes a pencil's better, and I'm just running it along the raised area for it to take the graphite, and it will stand out. Now, back onto the little panel, and there's some little markings that I have to paint in, and for this I'm using Revit Aquacolor 04 Gloss White. Now the kit does come with decals for this. Now I can sit here and tell you that I prefer painting them in it and things like that, but the simple truth is I have already lost the decal sheet. I've misplaced it and I can't find it. So in order to crack on with the build, I'm just painting them in. And then it's Humbrol 52 Baltic Blue. Now luckily the painting instructions do come in colour, so I can have a look at the decal sheet that it's got displayed on the instructions and simulate those colours. It's not going to be perfect, but it is better than nothing. Once it was painted, as you can see, it just fits into its slot without any difficulty, as well as this little set of two boxes here. Each one has its own unique location point to follow. And the last thing to do is to place in the bunks, and they just simply slot in. So if you haven't done so already, why don't you check out the channel for my other builds. If you subscribe to the channel, please do so. Make sure you hit the notification bell. That way you'll be kept up to date, not only with this build, but all my other builds as well, of course. Hit the like button, don't be afraid to leave a comment, and of course you can share the video. But for now, thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.